You know, I've had the pleasure over these years to drive many S-Class models. I've driven 5 different generations now with 10 different vehicles during the time here at TestDrive, so I would say that I'm a bit of an expert when it comes to these vehicles, considering I own one. This, my friends, is a 2024 Mercedes-Benz S 580e 4matic. Priced at about $180,000 Canadian or $135,000 in the US, this vehicle has a compelling sales pitch to you. It is a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle with about the same performance that you would get out of a V8. A 3-liter turbocharged straight-six engine provides about 503 total power when combined with the electric system and 553 pound-feet of torque. This uses a 9 G-tronic automatic transmission with the 4matic all-wheel drive system. And much like the other luxury cars that we feature that have a power plant like this, it feeds power from both the engine and the electric motor into the transfer case that sends power to all 4 wheels. So there's no rear wheel electric and front wheel gas. You can have fully electric or fully gas to all 4 wheels, and it is pretty good because this gets about 90 kilometers of fully electric range, which is class leading when it comes to any plug-in hybrid, especially a flagship luxury car. Now there is a lot to go over when it comes to this vehicle. We will talk about quite a bit of it on this video, but there really isn't enough time to be able to go over absolutely every feature. The S-Class always stands as the benchmark for luxury vehicles and also used as the test bed for any new technology Mercedes-Benz has. Unfortunately, a lot of that stuff isn't available in Canada. While we do have a version of the digital headlights, they aren't the same ones that you would get in Europe. Those ones will alert you of any obstacles or warnings on the road. It can also highlight pedestrians as you're driving along. These ones have a cool animation when you start up, but that's about it. They are adaptive, they'll turn, and the high beams are pretty good as well. But we don't get all of that. We also don't get the level 3 autonomous driving mode on here. We do have active lane change though. So if you've activated the Distronic adaptive cruise control system and you've got all the other safety tech enabled and you try to change the lane, the vehicle will perform that lane change for you. You also have blind spot monitoring, 360-degree cameras, and a bunch of safety tech that will keep you safe on this vehicle. Not only are there airbags in the backs of the front seats to provide forward-facing airbags for the rear passengers, you also have a updated version of the Mercedes pre-safe system. If it detects a forward or rear collision, like even my S-Class will do, it'll preempt the vehicle. It'll bolster up all your seatbelts and prepare for impact. But if the vehicle detects a potential side collision, somebody going to T-bone the vehicle, then the system will actually raise that vehicle so the oncoming vehicle will smash into the reinforced portion of the vehicle's chassis, providing better survivability for the occupants inside. Now our test model here is well equipped. We have the basic black paint on this. This isn't the sparkly metallic paint, unfortunately, but we do have the Napa leather black interior and a number of packages to make the rear seats a little bit more enjoyable. We have power back there, so you can adjust the seats back there. And then the 4 main seats, the front 2 and then the outboard rear, all have heat, ventilation, power, memory, and massage. And there are 10 massage profiles on this vehicle to keep you comfortable. As you would expect with an S-Class, all the windows have lamination to provide better road noise insulation. The windshield is also infrared reflecting, so it'll help to avoid some of those nasty sun rays coming in. We have 2 sunroofs, a larger one on the front and then a second one on the back for the rear occupants. And this vehicle also has the 15-speaker Burmester audio system, which sounds really good. For a default system, it is nice. I would have liked to have seen the 4D surround system. It is something that we tested in the BMW 760 a while ago, and they were really good. So I imagine it would be just as good on the S-Class. But speaking of the BMW, how does this compare? Because I drove the 760 a little while ago and I did like it. It is a very bold exterior design, very squared off, very angular, very aggressive, totally cyberpunk, not for everybody. The Mercedes-Benz here is quite a bit more reserved, traditional to what a S-Class would look like. It is handsome, elegant, luxurious, and not so much in your face. But if you were to compare this one to the one that we drove, pricing's kind of similar, and even the performance is actually pretty similar because that 760i at about $176,000 had 536 horsepower and the same torque. Now you can't really compare those two because this is a plug-in hybrid and the BMW wasn't. So what happens if you went with a 750e with the plug-in hybrid system there? Well, configured about the same way, the same black paint, black interior, most of the same safety features that BMW offers to kit them about the same. You're looking at about $165,000 Canadian. So quite a bit less than this, about $15,000 less than the Mercedes. However, you get a little bit less power. You're looking only at 483 horsepower, but the big kicker is the electric range. Only a 22.1 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery on that, and only 14 kilowatts are usable. You're getting about 53 kilometers of electric range versus the 90 kilometers you get on this. That could be a deal breaker for some. Somebody like me, who uses this vehicle mostly in town, I can get a lot done with 90 kilometers of electric range. The BMW is not bad. We tested it with the X5. I was still getting a really good return in terms of fuel economy, but a bigger battery can make a big difference. So what we're going to be doing is taking this on the road, talking about how the Mercedes-Benz S580e performs and drives, handles, and everything else about it, how it compares to the BMW 7 Series, and everything else you would need to know if you're in the market for a $180,000 full-size flagship luxury sedan. We are on the road now in the Mercedes-Benz S580e 4matic. It's a long wheelbase car. You can feel it. I love it. This is a pleasure to drive. Let's talk first about our fuel efficiency. Now, we would have liked to have had this vehicle fully charged up during our test loop. However, it wasn't possible. And one of the things too is, our test loop's 100 kilometers and this vehicle is supposed to do about 90. So had we done that, wouldn't have had much to talk about when it came to energy efficiency, but we did have this vehicle in hybrid mode. So without any charge on it, this still did 7 liters per 100 kilometers on our test loop, which is really, really good. When we think to my S-Class, I'm looking at like 10.5, something around there with my 4.6 liter twin turbo V8. So this is really efficient. Now, since I've had this home, I have been able to keep it charged up. First couple days, no. Again, just an issue with the vehicle. The charging port was not functional. Had to take it to Mercedes to get that repaired. So for a couple days, I could not charge this vehicle. But as of right now, I've driven about 426 kilometers, according to the onboard computer here. And that has averaged me about 6.5 liters per 100 kilometers overall. But I've done 215 kilometers, apparently fully electric, with 14.1 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers of energy use. That's a really good number. Now you got to keep in mind that because this vehicle has a smaller battery pack than a full electric, there's less weight to it. So that's why the energy efficiency is quite a bit lower. You do have 4-wheel drive with this system and the performance is pretty good, right? The electric motor on its own, I think it only does like 148 horsepower, something like that. It's not super powerful. If you put your foot down past the kickdown point, the engine comes on, even if you're in full electric mode. But I've gotten this thing up to about 150 kilometers an hour on a closed course, on a racetrack, on an airport runway in Mexico, doesn't matter where, but I got it up to 150 kilometers an hour in full electric mode. So the point is you can drive this pretty much fully electric for as much as you need up until that 90 kilometers, or depending on how you drive, once you run out of range. So it's really good for that. And one thing we hear from a lot of people is, what about the HVAC systems, right? Now you can schedule this vehicle to have it ready to go at a certain time, just like any other plug-in hybrid. Only downside though is it won't charge it until that time. You have to tell it basically to do a fast charge, and it allows you to fully charge it up before that time. So for example, I always go pick up my daughter at the same time. I always schedule these vehicles to do that. It wasn't charged up because I went out before that time. I left a couple hours ahead of time and the vehicle wasn't charged. So there's a way to override that. There's also a way to tell it not to charge during certain times. So if you have higher electricity costs, on and off peak hours, you can set it up to do that as well. So it's pretty smart. I assume with the Mercedes Me app, you'd be able to do more with the vehicle. We don't have access to that, so I can't really talk about it, but I can talk about the rest of the experience. And I have to say, in fully electric mode, this vehicle is whisper quiet. It's an S-Class, it's always quiet, but there pretty much is no noise outside of the tires. And then even if I do put the vehicle into sport mode, we'll kick on the engine, it's still really quiet. And what I really like is the transition between the gas and electric systems is almost unnoticeable. And that was the big thing that I had about the BMW, is when you were going around and you put it on into hybrid mode, or you ran out of electric charge, then the gas system kicked in, there was a pretty noticeable change between it. Even if you had no range left and basically was using it as a regular hybrid setup, so you'd come to a stoplight, vehicle wouldn't be running, it would be on the electric system, you'd start to go, a little bit of electric, and then it would switch over to the gas. You could feel it, and it was really disappointing for a luxury car to have that sort of experience, because you want it to be seamless, you want it to be smooth, comfortable, and quiet, and the BMW just didn't quite do that. And Victor and I have just filmed a video comparing this with my S-Class, and we talk about it in that video that Mercedes has had over a decade of ability to test hybrid systems in Formula One. They won 8 Constructors' World Championships because they were able to make not only a car that was fast, but a vehicle that paired that engine, that 1.5-liter V6 engine, in with a hybrid system to produce winning results. And that engineering, that R&D, has gone from Formula One into these vehicles, and that's why Mercedes is really ahead when it comes to hybrid technology. That's why if you are considering a plug-in hybrid, this is the way to go. You got to go with a Mercedes because it's got it. And I'm seeing consistent, 85-kilometer range. I'm not putting it past about 50% right now, just because I don't do a lot of driving, but I can do everything I do during a day fully electric with this car. I can plug it in at home, it's charged up in 2.5 hours. You can get an optional DC fast charge on this vehicle for 60 kilowatts of DC fast charging. You can charge it up in 20 minutes. Now, I don't know who would necessarily option that. There's only one plug-in hybrid I've driven that had that. That's the Mitsubishi Outlander, but you have that option. So if you do a lot of driving, or you really do want to maximize your energy use and not use as much fuel, you can option that. It's like less than $1,000 to add that on, so it could be worthwhile for some people. But even with the way that this vehicle is set up, I have been very, very happy with it. There's a couple things I want to talk about. The interior is different, okay? I would say that this is a step back in terms of overall functionality from the previous generation S-Class. We have a 12.8-inch infotainment system here that essentially everything needs to be done through. Your HVAC controls are through there. Everything you need to do seat-wise, aside from basic functions with these haptic buttons, they don't physically move. Everything else needs to be done through the infotainment system, like your massage. And I already had this system crash on me once while I was driving, and everything went dead. Not the greatest experience you want to have. I don't like these tablets. I wish that manufacturers still had buttons and relied more on the interior elegance of a vehicle, but I understand that this is the direction a lot of people are going in. I mean, everybody's pretty much got it. So there are some basic controls, but everything really needs to be done through the infotainment. It is fast. The processing power on it is really good. I would prefer not to have everything be reliant on that system. Aside from that, though, the interior is quite lovely. It has a very good flow to it. Everything lines up. Build quality is fantastic. We have the full leather package on here. We have Alcantara headliner. So everything that you would want is on this vehicle. The sound system is good as well. The seat comfort is excellent. This has really comfortable seating in all 4 seats, no matter where you go. Plus, with the massage and ventilation options on all 4 seats that are important, it's a big plus for this vehicle. So some really good stuff from there. I do like it. I like the ambient lighting on here as well. I'm not sure if you can see it too well on the B-roll, but I did capture some. This is the Miami Night interior color combination, so you can change the different profiles for the lights on the inside here. Some run around the top, most of it runs around the dash area, but they are really nice. They're not over the top. They are a little bit more on the subtle side. It's certainly more than on my S-Class, but if you really love interior lighting, then the BMW might be the way to go. But I do like it. So good stuff there. A lot of piano black though, like too much piano black. Center console here, I know you can option it to be something different, but it still is going to be a glossy surface here. I really wish that it was the wood trim that you select on the vehicle, but I didn't design it, so I can't really complain too much about it. But there is a lot of piano black, and it gets scuffed up and it gets full of fingerprints, so that is what it is. But the rest of the vehicle so far has been what I would expect from a Mercedes-Benz S-Class. I mean, I have not been disappointed. It's comfortable, it's fast, it's got the energy efficiency and the fuel efficiency that I would want. It's got tons of space in the back seat. Trunk space limited because it's a plug-in hybrid. So essentially, you know, it comes down to whether or not you like the interior layout here. It comes down to whether or not you like the exterior design. You know, while it is still pretty true to what a S-Class should look like, the vehicle lineups now are really becoming all one big mesh. And you know, you can argue about that all you want, but I feel that the C and S-Class has always had shared designs, and the E-Class kind of stood out a little bit as its own little thing. But now it is really difficult to tell the difference between these vehicles unless you look at the side profile and realize that this is enormous. But that's what all the luxury brands are doing. They're really just doing one major design across the board. So I like the look of it. I would go with the AMG exterior package. That's a must. Everything else though, I mean, aside from the paint color and the interior color, this is pretty much the way that I would configure it too. So, you know, I'd be looking at about $180,000 for it, but that's the price you got to pay if you want to drive an S-Class. There's nothing more prestigious really in this price point than an S-Class. That is why Mercedes' slogan has always been the best or nothing, because that is really what this vehicle is. And this shows us what the future for the Mercedes brand could be. This is a good mix. I think this is the perfect full-size luxury vehicle because you've got a plug-in hybrid system as well as a regular gas engine. You can do anything you want with it. I think that an EQS that looked exactly like this, that just happened to be fully electric, would be the right way to go for a full electric vehicle. But I do have to give Mercedes credit for having a plug-in hybrid option. It is good in this market to have those options. Not everybody is ready to go full EV. Not everybody wants to go full EV. So this gives you a good mix between the two with outstanding fuel efficiency. It's a win in my books. And that goes back to what I was saying at the very beginning of this video. I have driven now 10 different models of the Mercedes S-Class spanning 5 different generations. I own an S-Class, and I can tell you that these vehicles all ride the same. It's incredible. When you get behind the wheel of a W126 from the 80s or a brand new 2024 W223, the ride is pretty much identical. Obviously, they refine it. It's a little bit smoother, a little bit more quiet. You know, the suspension just eats up the bumps just a little bit better. But I mean, even the older S-Classes have this phenomenal ride on them. It's really like nothing else. So if you are like the 80% of S-Class owners in Europe or 70% in the US who continue to buy Mercedes-Benz models, there's a reason for it. You know why. So I highly, highly suggest checking it out. If you're in the market for it, it's a small market, but obviously it's a market that people are very interested in getting the best. And I would say that this over the 7 Series is a no-brainer. For me, plug-in hybrid. Comparing this to the 750e, this is a much better vehicle. So there you go. Mercedes S-Class, still the king of the full-size luxury sedan. Now, if you have any questions about this video, as always, we do try to get back to everybody within a timely fashion. So leave a comment below. Let us know what you think of the W223 Mercedes-Benz S-Class in this 580e form. We're going to try to get some more Mercedes models. And as I mentioned, Victor and I filmed a retrospective comparing this with my 2013 S550. So I would strongly recommend checking that video out once it goes live. You won't want to miss it. Until next time, thanks for watching and take care.